Boy, am I proud of Palantir. They just absolutely smashed earnings. Firstly, what Alex Karp said to CNBC.
Revenue now forecast at $1.33 billion. This is above street estimates too. Full year revenue, $4.4 billion, also stronger. 2025 free cash flow guidance also revised higher. For Q3, beats in both U.S. commercial and U.S. government. U.S. commercial revenue up 121%. U.S. government revenue was up 52%. Rule of 40, this is a enterprise software metric that gets used 114% now for Palantir. I spoke with CEO and co-founder Alex Karp, who told me he suspects these are the single best numbers ever printed in enterprise software. Quote, I think it was a watershed. It is a watershed moment where people who are just basking in their own narcissistic skepticism of Palantir, largely for reasons of laziness or ideology, have to really rethink maybe the ontology is the formative piece of software, maybe the FTE model, maybe being pro-American is actually a good thing. Karp again saying that those who will make money in AI will have chips or the ability to connect that raw data to the real world, meaning ontology. He says Palantir remains focused on the U.S. It's now about 3/4 of revenue, saying, quote, we supply our product all over the world, but we're not in the business of doing remedial extra education for the rest of the world. We're in the business of helping the U.S., especially the average person, to participate in the wealth creation.
Palantir Technologies just reported blowout third quarter results that crushed Wall Street's expectations. Let's break down what happened. Revenue came in at $1.8 billion, up 63% year over year. But here's where it gets really interesting. US commercial revenue skyrocketed 121% to $397 million. And they're not just growing, they're printing money. GAAP net income margin hit 40%, their adjusted operating margin 51%, and their so-called Rule of 40, which measures growth plus profitability, came in at 114%. The company closed a record $2.76 billion in total contract value, up 151% year over year. They signed 204 deals worth at least $1 million and 53 deals over $10 million. Looking ahead, Palantir is guiding fourth quarter revenue to $1.3 billion. That's 61% growth for the full year, and they're raising guidance to $4.4 billion in revenue, representing 53% growth. CEO Alex Karp says their AI platform AIP is driving this transformation, especially in the US commercial market. These numbers suggest Palantir has hit a major inflection point, and here is his letter to shareholders. We are still at the very start of things. This remains the beginning, the first moment of a first chapter. Our business generated $1.2 billion in revenue for the third quarter of the year, a new record in our more than 20-year history, representing an accelerating and otherworldly growth rate of 63% over the same period the year before. We also generated a staggering $476 million in profit this past quarter, again a record in our company's history. And to be clear, nearly $500 million in profit in only 3 months. It is worth remembering that the business is now producing more profit in a single quarter than it did in revenue not long ago. This ascent has confounded most financial analysts and the chattering class, whose frames of reference did not quite anticipate a company of this size and scale growing at such a ferocious and unrelenting rate. Some of our detractors have been left in a kind of deranged and self-destructive befuddlement. It has indeed been difficult for outsiders to appraise our business, either its significance in shaping our current geopolitics or its value in the vulgar financial sense. The reality is that Palantir has made it possible for retail investors to achieve rates of return previously limited to the most successful venture capitalists in Palo Alto. And we have done so through authentic and substantive growth. In the United States, our commercial business has now more than doubled in the last 12 months, growing 121% and generating $397 million in the last quarter. This segment of our operations is an absolute juggernaut, and we believe that it will become, on its own, one of the most significant business stories of the century in American economic life. For all of its idiosyncrasies and complexity, American corporate culture remains one of the most adaptive on the planet. Our partners in the United States, the earliest and most voracious adopters of the novel language models that are presently reordering human life and of the ontology that allows them to effectively operate understand how significantly the terrain beneath us all has shifted, and they are racing to experiment and evolve, setting aside preconceived notions of what ought to work for what actually does. It is a ruthless pragmatism, and one that is yielding extraordinary results. In the end, the route for us to something universal, a generalizable artificial intelligence platform, was made possible by an obsessive focus on the specific, the particularized and quite idiosyncratic challenges and technical problems of our disparate set of customers. Second, we have grown quite significantly in recent years. And yet, counterintuitively to many, including ourselves at times, our reluctance to abandon constraints has been a principal and driving force of our continued rise. Our headcount is one manifestation of this disciplined approach. The casual expansion of our ranks would have diminished the need to lean even more heavily on the strength of our software and the ontology and to ensure their continued maturation. The alternative would have been to rely on an army of bright minds to do work that would have obscured the platform's weaknesses and ultimately hindered its development. Henry Jaglom, the British film director, said in an interview with the Washington Post in 1994, citing his friend Orson Welles, "The enemy of art is the absence of limitations." The same is absolutely true in software development. Third, a century ago, the poet William Butler Yeats warned, "The falcon cannot hear the falconer, things fall apart, the center cannot hold." Today, America is the center, and it must hold. A rejection of any shared and defined sense of common culture in this nation and others has had significant costs. We should, indeed must, return to a shared national experience, an embrace of common identity that by definition puts forward certain ideas, values, culture, and ways of living at the exclusion of others. It is and was a mistake to casually proclaim the equality of all cultures and cultural values. Some have proven to be wondrous and generative, others destructive and deeply regressive. And an even greater mistake is to believe that we could or should convert the world to our way of living. And yet we have, as a culture, resisted, some actively and strenuously, a degree of assent to common beliefs or shared culture that would make such orientation possible. It is, however, that pursuit of something greater and rejection of a vacant and neutered and hollow pluralism that will help ensure our continued strength and survival. Sincerely, Alexander C. Karp.